my name is Deanna Andrew, and I am the Sustainable Classrooms Manager for Urban Green Lab. And I'm also serving as the Assistant Director for the Nashville Food Waste Initiative. So I'm thrilled to be speaking with Jeannie Hunter today from the Society of St. Andrew on Sustainable Nashville Live. So Jeannie is the Tennessee Regional Director of the Society of St. Andrew, and she serves on our Food Waste Initiative Steering Committee as well. She's partnered with Urban Green Lab on food rescue in Nashville schools and training teachers on food waste reduction. So before we begin, I want to remind you that Urban Green Lab is a nonprofit, and if you feel so inclined to support us, you can make a donation on our website at urbangreenlab.org, or you can text Team UGL, one word, to 44321 to get that donation link sent to your phone. All right, so hi Jeannie.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Tell us a little bit about Society of St. Andrew.
Society of St. Andrew is a nonprofit that brings people together to harvest and collect healthy food. We reduce food waste and we build caring communities by offering nourishment to our hungry neighbors. That's our mission statement. What that means is that we glean food at what's left behind in the field for whatever reason. And we also get large loads of excess food. So that might be yogurt, that might be sweet potatoes, it might be any number of things. And then we donate all that food to feeding agencies. In Nashville, that might look like the Rescue Mission or the Food Project, or lots of little church food pantries.
Cool, awesome. So about how much food is gleaned and donated by Society of St. Andrew each year in Tennessee?
Last year, we gleaned just over 1 million pounds, which was exciting for us. This year, already at 800,000 pounds. And that's partly because of the pandemic and the way the food chain has been affected, but also because we're helping to distribute some of the USDA farm to family boxes. But we haven't even barely hit the season yet where we get all the good vegetables. So we expect it to be a pretty big year for us.
Yeah, a lot more than that probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned the pandemic, so I'm actually going to just ask you about that. So during this pandemic, we've heard on the news that a lot of farms have to throw away a ton of food or crops or products because they're not able to sell them. Can you explain kind of why that is and then how you've been able to get some of those products and donate it?
Yeah, sure. So usually the farm sells their food to the distributor, and then the distributor gets the food to the grocery store or the restaurant, and then the consumer gets the food after that. In this instance, the grocery store and restaurants couldn't sell food. Partly that's because so many consumers were unemployed and couldn't afford to buy food. And also nobody wanted to be out in public and restaurants were closed down. So that made a big wall for a lot of people. Then the distributors got backed up with all their food, and then the farmers got all backed up with their food. The best example of us being able to do something about that is in Knoxville. We had one farmer who specialty was eggs, and he particularly sold to a restaurant that did breakfast stuff. And so when that restaurant closed down, he had tons and tons and tons of eggs, and instead of throwing them away, he called us and we got them distributed to feeding agencies there in Knoxville.
Awesome, that's great. So we'll go back to you a little bit. Tell us about yourself and what brought you to Nashville and to Society of St. Andrew.
Well, I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I moved to Nashville after grad school and after I worked at Eckerd College and campus ministries for a while. And then while I was here, I served at Second Presbyterian Church for a little while. I left Nashville for a little bit, but I came back to take this job.
Cool. Great. So let's see. How did you get interested in sustainability and doing this work?
The first time I remember thinking about the planet or sustainability was in Girl Scouts when I was a kid. It was either late 80s or early 90s, probably late 80s. And I just remember hearing about the planet and especially about recycling because that was a thing then. It was a new thing then. And so we've always recycled in my house as long as I can remember. And I heard about Society of St. Andrew when I was working at Eckerd, actually. I coordinated an event for students to um, sort out cucumbers. So we had a truckload of cucumbers delivered to campus, and then we went through them and bagged them into manageable sizes, and any that were bad we got rid of. And then the students delivered them to a feeding agency there in St. Petersburg, Florida. And that was my first interaction with Society of St. Andrew. And then when I worked here at Second Presbyterian, I took a bunch of youth to what they call a Harvest of Hope, which is a week-long program where you learn about food waste and hunger, all the while gleaning food in the fields during the day. So it was a week-long mission trip harvesting kale, and it was hot, but it was fun, and I learned a lot. And then we did a couple more events with them at the church, and then here I am.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so when I think about food waste, I don't really think often about all the food that's wasted on the farm. So can you tell us why so much food is left on the field and needs to be gleaned?
Yeah, sometimes farmers are just done for the season. In particular, you pick things like strawberries and blueberries and stuff like that, where people are excited to go out. After a certain time of year, they just are kind of done, but there still might be strawberries or blueberries left. So we'll go out and harvest the leftovers of that, or maybe a CSA that's done for the season, or a CSA that is growing way more food than they are having to distribute to their customers. And sometimes it's the ugly stuff. There's very, very strict grocery store standards for produce. Sweet potatoes have to look like little footballs. They have to be all the same shape and size and no spots. And green beans have to be between 3 and 5 inches, and then they can't be any longer or shorter or too curly. Peaches have to be within a 1/4 inch, or else they might be considered too big, which I don't think that's possible, but
Yeah.
the grocery store does. And so that's why a lot of food ends up getting left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it tastes just as good and is just as nutritious. So
I think so too. Great. So you partnered with us last year on a pilot with the MNPS schools to reduce and rescue food in schools. So can you tell everyone about how you supported that program?
yeah, we did the share tables, which means the kids had a place where they could put excess food that was closed in packaging still, and other kids could pick up that food to eat themselves during lunch or save for later. But if there was any extra left over, someone could put that food in the fridge, and then a volunteer from Society of St. Andrew could come and pick up that food. And we mostly took it to Nashville Rescue Mission this past year. We'll see what happens this year.
Mm-hmm. And what types of food is that can be donated?
A lot of it was milk, any fruit cups that are still sealed, any fruit that isn't cut into already, any bagged or packaged stuff that isn't open. So there might be chips, or there might be some other snack food or something like that. And then breakfasts, they have Danishes. Sometimes there's like those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that are cut into circles and they're still in plastic. So
yeah. I remember doing that work at some of those schools and just being shocked at how much milk is just unopened and how much fruit is not eaten and totally able to be used or eaten, but there's just not really a process for it.
Exactly. Yep.
So thanks for supporting us on that program.
Happy to.
Yeah. So are there any misconceptions that people have about your organization or this work? And is there something you really want people to know about your work here?
Well, sometimes I'll get a call asking for somebody's Scottish kilt. St. Andrew's is a Scottish thing, and so somebody will call me looking for tartans, or I had somebody call me looking for a bagpiper the other day. So we are not Scottish. We're also not necessarily Catholic or Episcopalian. A lot of people assume since we have Saint in the name that we're one of those. We were founded by Methodists, actually, but now we're just an ecumenical group that lets anybody who wants to help and will give food to anybody who needs it.
That's wonderful. What is one thing you wish everyone did to reduce food waste in their own lives?
Can I say two?
Yeah.
One, I wish they would eat their leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I wish they would buy ugly stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a great study done by the NRDC in Nashville a couple of years ago showing that one of our biggest things that we waste is just leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
So ordering out or cooking too much and then not eating it. So we can freeze it, we can try to eat it in time. Those are some options, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then eating ugly produce. So when we have our own gardens and things grow kind of on their own and they look interesting, we still are able to eat them. So keeping that in mind even when we're shopping.
And at the farmer's market, the one with the spot, don't just leave it there.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Yep.
Yeah. We had a follower question related to this asking, how can we address food waste depending on people's varying income levels?
Yeah. So different people obviously have different areas of concern in this. We do get to do education sometimes in churches and schools. And so in those instances, we talk about different things people can do at home to reduce food waste. If someone is low income, hopefully they can receive some of that food from one of the feeding agencies. And it's the same with the share table. The kids that have enough or have excess can put their food on the table, and the kids that don't have enough can pick their food off and take it with them.
Yeah, great, thank you. So a couple more questions. What is one question you hear often and wish everyone knew the answer to?
Oh, I think that you already asked it, the why is so much food going to waste thing.
Yeah, just why does it, because I don't think a lot of people think about food. They might think about food waste in their homes or at restaurants, but not really on the farms.
Right, not at the farm level.
Yeah, so that's great. You're there as a resource.
When we have a big load of sweet potatoes, for instance, people will hold up a sweet potato and be like, why is this one getting rejected? And they'll do that for like the whole time. And like, exactly, there's no reason for any of it to get rejected.
Right, right. So just creating those systems where you're there to be able to glean it, pick it up, and transport it to people who need it.
Yeah.
How does your role help create a sustainable community in Nashville?
Well, food waste contributes to climate change, as you know. When food goes into a landfill, it doesn't have access to the oxygen it needs to decompose well, so it creates methane. And methane is a very, very potent greenhouse gas. And so they say that every ton of food that is kept out of a landfill is like 2.5 cars average emissions per year when it comes to the effect they're having on the climate. So we did 1 million pounds last year. That's what, 500 tons? Whatever, it's something.
Yeah, that's a lot, a big
that's
impact.
a bunch of emissions that are reduced. So
yeah, and as well as the space taking up in the landfill. We know our landfills are filling up, and a huge portion, one of the single largest components of a landfill by weight is food, which is incredible to me, and just totally unnecessary. If we can find these systems to help mitigate those problems and help support our community. Our last question is, we've launched a campaign called Find Your Lab, which encourages everyone to explore sustainable living and create a lab of learning about sustainability in their own life. So what, something they're working on in their own life to become more sustainable. Can you tell us something you're working on?
I compost food. And after I shred stuff from the mail, if it doesn't have the plastic window, I'll put that in the compost too. I recycle as much as I can. And I try to get things fixed instead of replacing them. So I dropped my cell phone in some water the other day, and instead of just going and getting a new phone, I went and got it repaired, and that was good. It was cheaper too.
Oh, nice.
I'm still working on straws. I have my reusable straws, and sometimes I remember to say no straw, please, but a lot of times I still forget, and then I have a straw and my reusable straw, and that's not helpful.
Yeah, me too. I've definitely been working on straws and to-go cutlery that I don't need as we're ordering more to-go food at home during this time. I've tried to say no cutlery, no straws, but it can be hard to remember. Yeah, those are challenging. Thanks for sharing that. Well, do you have anything else that you want to share, or any upcoming events or anything you want to tell our audience about?
We are always needing volunteers to go out in the field and glean or help with other events. and we are on Instagram as sosa.tn, Society of St. Andrew.tn, sosa.tn, and on Twitter and Facebook as sosatn, no dot. And then our website is endhunger.org, and you can go there and learn about us and sign up to volunteer and make a donation if you are so inclined.
That's great. And so you still have volunteer opportunities happening through this time?
Yeah, we're keeping the group small,
Okay.
but yeah, we've been out in one field at least every week, and then we glean a few of the farmers markets across the state. So
Oh, great. Okay.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Jeannie.
People.
Yeah, before we wrap up, oh, I was just asking you about those resources, so you told us those. So I want to thank you again for being here with us. And next week, we'll be interviewing Alex Pegas from Compost Nashville. So if you have any questions for Alexa or a recommendation for another organization you would be interested in learning more about or asking questions about, please email Patrick, our households manager, at patrick@urbangreenlab.org. And until next time, remember to live sustainably. Thank you.